Hey everybody, welcome back to Building Your Empire with SophieZo. I'm so excited. I have such a cool and fun and amazing guest today. His name is Jake Ballentine. He is a friend, a colleague, and he is the leader of the Rising Tide Connection group that I belong to. And he has put together a great group of people to hang out with and learn and mastermind with. And so today he's going to bring you his amazing advice and expert tips. He is a national award-winning speaker and coach. He has presented live in front of over 300,000 people all over the U.S. He is the founder of the Speakers, Author, and Coaches Network and host of the Mountaintop Motivation Podcast. His message to the world is that you can reach the mountaintop of your life if you have the courage to pursue your dreams by putting one foot in front of the other. When he's not sharing his empowering message, he enjoys having fun outdoors and spending time with his wife, Caitlin, and 5-year-old son, Jacob. So please join me in welcoming Jake Ballentine to the show. Hey, Jake.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Sophie.
You're welcome. I'm so excited to have you on here because we're going to have a lot of fun. So, the normal scoop here is my guests have to answer one question to start, and then we go from there. And that question is, what is your best advice for business owners who want to scale their business to the next level and beyond?
Great. I love that question. So the thing that I like most about that question is it's assuming that we're already talking to people who are in the game and who are already successful. So how do they take what they've already done and then scale it to the next level? The biggest thing has been going on in my mind lately is this concept of what got you here will not get you there. Now, you can take principles from what you've done. You can take principles like maybe the principle was you decided what you want, you believed you could go and get it, you got curious on what to do, then you started trying things with the willingness to test and adjust until you got there. But I think one of the biggest blind spots of quote unquote successful entrepreneurs is that they get to the place where they feel like this is success. And this is what happens to most of us. We get to the place that what we thought was success from whatever our previous existence was, whether that was a previous job, we matched our income from our previous job. Maybe we started, I started into entrepreneurship right out of college. And to me, it was like, well, as soon as I reached the level of income that I thought I was going to have in a career, I reached that level that I called success. Now, when it was time to scale that to the next level, the problem that most of us have is the blind spot called success. And that is that we see, well, I did this to get here. So what I should do now is just do that harder. Just do it harder. And that's where entrepreneurial burnout comes in, because what got you here won't get you there. So you need to start thinking differently so that you can get to that next level. I hope that answers at least somewhat of that question. That leaves a lot open, but I think it's a concept of the same things you did to get here are not the things that are gonna get you to that next level.
No, and that I totally agree. I mean, yes, I totally agree with you because so many entrepreneurs start out and they rock it and they do well, and they may hit bumps in the road and overcome those challenges, and they hit, maybe they hit six figures or mid six figures, and they're like, yeah, I want to go higher, I want to go to 1 million, and they're still trying to do the same thing that they were doing to get to six figures or mid six figures, and then they wonder why they can't get any higher, make more money, and they're burnt out, and many times they're burnt out, they're stressed, they're overwhelmed, they're spending so much time on the business that they don't have a family life and the vacation and things like that. And they have to really open their mind to more, but not more for them. They've got to understand that there are other things you have to do to go from here to there once you hit the big time and want to go bigger. So, I agree with you 100%. And from my perspective, one thing that I always like to bring into that very philosophy is, if you got to six figures, mid six figures, with yourself and maybe a VA and maybe a social media manager, and you want to go to seven figures and beyond, that's not going to cut it. You
Right.
need more help, more support. You probably, if you don't have a coach or mentor, you probably need a coach or mentor. You need a different circle of support than you had where you started, because a couple of people cannot be those people that take you to 1 million and beyond. There's so
Right.
much to it. So What do you where are you on that spectrum of getting more help, getting coaches and mentors, a support system for that?
For sure. I think it's the most important thing that you could do. I look at it this way, when you want to scale, you have to ask the question of what am I going to scale? Because unfortunately, we all only have the same 24 hours in a day. And we say 24 hours a day, but I don't know about you, but I need to sleep at night. So now I have a whole lot less than that. Also, if I work all day long, there's this big lie out there where people tend to want to say, well, my work is my passion, my work is my joy. So I never take time off. And I go, man, come talk to me in a couple months after doing that without stopping. You're going to be burned out. So we have this finite thing called time. So now the question is, what are you going to scale? And we have a couple different things in our businesses. We got our marketing, we have our sales, we have the fulfillment of the product. This goes for any business. Fulfillment of the product, whatever we actually promise, delivering upon it. And then we have admin. Hopefully your admin, you already outsourced that to someone. Hopefully a lot of your marketing, you're not doing you might be creating it, but you're not doing all of those things. Now we have two things. We have sales and we have fulfillment. And if you're trying to do both of those, you're going to hit a ceiling, certainly in the lower half of the six figures. You're going to hit a ceiling there, even if you're a very high priced coach. If you're doing both sales and fulfillment, you're going to have a hard time scaling because you've got to make at least one of those scalable, preferably both. So a couple different options. You can go and you can say, you know what, we're going to focus on a group method when it comes to the fulfillment. Or we're going to hire people to do that fulfillment. Now, for coaches, you can go group or you can hire people to go and do that coaching. Maybe you're going to create courses, a hybrid. I find hybrid programs tend to be really good where you can take your specific training and then you're hiring coaches to do implementation with them. So those are a couple options there in the coaching world. But whatever business it is, you need to have some kind of fulfillment to where there are people that are handling that fulfillment. Now, on the sales side of things, I think the easiest way and most efficient / effective way to scale your sales is to start off with looking at the sales process. Because I myself had a challenge with this because I'm like, well, I'm really good at sales. It's something I'm good at. It's something that's a natural talent. And so it feels kind of scary to hand that over to other people. So what you can do is instead of handing it all over at one time, before you say, okay, I'm going to hand everything over, just look at it and start saying, well, do I need to do every part of this? Do I need to do initial messaging and contacting and email response? Do I need to do scheduling? Do I need to do call setting? Do I need to do client qualifying? Do I need to do any of those things? And the answer is probably not. Maybe all you need to do is just that last little step. So I think that's a great place to start scaling. If you're one of those people who says, look, I do it so well, I don't know if I can train someone to do it better than me. They're not going to do it better than you. So instead of thinking, how can I find someone to do it better than me? Just start thinking, how can I outsource some of the parts of this that anyone can do? Because there are parts of it that anyone can do. And then you can just have that little slice of that you handle. And then eventually, if you really want to scale, you're going to need to get rid of that too, because you're going to want a bunch of people doing it. One thing I heard Tony Robbins say is he said, other people are not going to do it better than you. It's just not going to happen. But if you can get them to do it 80%, if they can do it 80% as good as you would, then you're in a situation where you say, okay, that's good enough. Now, you're lying to yourself if you think that no one will be able to do anything better. What you're thinking is the things I'm great at, and we're thinking the things that you're not great at aren't that important. But the truth is as you start handing those over to other people, you're going to find that there's people who are far better at those things. And on top of that, it's their passion. They're passionate about that. I know some people are crazy enough to be passionate about organizing things. That's not me. I'm not passionate about that. So if I can have other people do that, not only do they do it better, but also I don't have that drain on me that comes from it. I think when most people are drained, they say it's because they're so busy. It's usually not because they're so busy. It's usually because they're spending too much time doing the activities that drain them instead of fill them up.
Agreed, agreed. And I love how you talked about, nobody, because a lot of people are not willing to outsource and delegate anything in their business because they have that mindset that says no one can do it as good as me. It's not even better than me. It's like no one can do it as good as me. And it's like, well, is that really true? Because is everything you're doing something you're really fabulous at? Because I bet you're not. Jack of all trades, master of none
Right.
comes to mind for me. Even me, I mean, I'm a super delegator, I'm a super jack of all trades, but I have learned that if I focus on the jack of all trades that I'm good at and delegate the rest, it's a much better system. My team does so much for me and my clients that it's like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do that sooner? Or, my clients are like, oh wow, I don't have to do that anymore. And I'm like, no, you don't, and you shouldn't, because they get so caught up in it, and they want to think that they're really good at it, but they're not necessarily really good at it. And the other side of that is they hate doing it. And
Right.
that's the draining part. You're talking about, it's like, oh, you might be good at it, but if you hate doing it, it's still going to drain you. It's still going to distract you and pull you away from the things that are your genius, the things that are going to grow the business and scale it. Because ultimately, to scale your business, you got to be focused on the things that are actually going to scale it and grow it. Because if you don't do that, then it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to stay stuck where it is.
Right. That's 100% right. And so looking at that and saying it's like, well, where do you want to be? I think it's really important that people actually look at themselves and say, do I actually want to scale, or am I doing this just because that's what I think I'm supposed to do? Because I think candidly, I think some people will be happier staying where they're at, or maybe even going a little bit down, keeping more of the money and not doing as many things. And if that's you, be honest with yourself and just say, well, this is what I want to do. But if you want to scale, if you want to grow, then like I said at the beginning, what got you here will not get you there. You being a one person operation or a very small team is not going to take you into that 7, 8 figures. You got to build a system. You got to build a team. In fact, this is something I've been real big on lately. I've called myself an entrepreneur now for almost 15 years. And I started looking at the definition of an entrepreneur and I go, during most of that time, I wasn't an entrepreneur. I was self-employed. That's very different.
Oh,
That's
yes.
that and candidly, still half of my day is self-employed and half of my day is entrepreneur. And I'm working on that, shifting that, doing those kind of things because there still is like I can't walk away and have the machine still operating. That's what we want to have happen. We want to have happen where you can walk away and the machine is still operating. That's when you are no longer a self-employed person and you are now a business owner. Be a business owner instead of a business operator. And it might not be 100%. You might spend your day 50-50 owner operator. It might be 75-25, whatever that ends up being. But the more we can get into that owner phase, the easier it will be to scale. Because if you're the operator, if you are the self-employed person, then ultimately everyone in your organization has to go through the bottleneck called you. And if they have to go through that bottleneck called you, um, it's a very small space for scale to go through. And so you think about it, you got to eliminate yourself from it. You think about the biggest entrepreneurs in the world, they're not out there, making the stuff. They're not out there doing that kind of thing. You have to step back and realize that if you want to build something big and meaningful, it can't be all about you.
Absolutely. I love that because, and I love the part about, do you really want to scale to 7 figures and beyond? Because, so many, I've been to like conferences and things, and I've seen speakers on stage go, and talking about, let's make $1 million. And someone would get up on the mic and go, but what if I don't want to make $1 million? And they literally would look at him and go, really? Why the hell wouldn't you want to make $1 million? It's like, maybe they don't want a million, maybe they don't want it. I mean, not everybody, it's the thing, or it's the, my buddy's making $1 million, or Tony Robbins is making billions of dollars. you know I want to be like Tony Robbins. It's like, no, I don't think I want to be like, no, I definitely don't want to be like Tony Robbins. I mean, I love the man, but that's not my gig. But you do have to really want what you think you want. It's not, or what, definitely make sure it's what you want, because If it's somebody else's what you want, you're gonna struggle. I love that. But I also love the fact that you talked about becoming the business owner or the CEO, the leader of the team, the company, because you're right. You've got to get out of the day to day. You've got to get out of that stuff. And you've got, and even if you're still the decision maker on some things, you've got to put yourself in a position where when you see something from your team, you're like, okay, yeah, this is good. Run with it, not nitpicking it. Oh, well, I just should have done this myself and redoing it. You've got to be able to trust your team. You've got to be able to let go, and you've got to be able to be open to the what they're producing on your behalf. I mean, now granted, it's got to be the right voice, the right feel, those kinds of things. But if you've got the right team in place, that shouldn't be a problem. You shouldn't have to nitpick everything they do.
We look at it, it's training. That's what it really is it's training. And if people are, and I've gone through this, I've gone through these phases where I've had people who have worked for me that it didn't work out, and it was my fault, not theirs. It wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault. I didn't train them properly. And I didn't train them properly, and then I was disappointed that they didn't know what I wanted. So I needed to train them. And now, I look at the people who are working with me now and spending a lot more time training them, and with the idea of, look, I think this is what people should really want. You got to train your people properly, and then be willing to know that they're gonna make mistakes, but that you don't have to correct them a million times. So if you can correct them a handful of times, and then it's done. This is compound efforts. I'm reading a book right now called Effortless, and one of the things it talks about in this book is spending your time on activities that he calls compound efforts. And the compound efforts have compound results, meaning you do it once and then it's done, and it happens over and over and over again. Properly training people is an example of that. It might take more time at the beginning, but then it takes so much less time long term because you train them properly, and now you can hand the project over and you don't need to worry about it. Maybe you review it once a week, review it once a month, whatever that ends up being, just to stay on top and make sure things are moving in the direction that you want. But that's a big difference between doing it all the time. And I think a lot of people are saying, I don't have time to train people. And meanwhile, they're so busy every single week, every single day, and they never have time to breathe or to think. Or most importantly, you as the entrepreneur, your real value is taking time to be creative, to create things, to make things, to have new ideas. That's where your brilliance is you're making something. But if you don't have time to think, you're not going to be able to create anything. You're not going to be able to make anything. And so you got to spend that time knowing it's going to take more time up front to train people properly, and then knowing it's going to be a little bit rocky at the beginning, but that's okay. You know that's going to happen. And your goal is to find the people that you can train properly, correct a handful of times, and then be able to hand it over, knowing that 90% of the time it's going to come out just the way you want it.
Love that. Yes. And a piece of that training for everybody, including you, the business owner, is making sure you know how to communicate effectively in that training process, and you have very explicit and clear expectations of what they're supposed to be doing, what the outcome is supposed to be, and those kinds of things, because you can train somebody all day on how to do something, but if you don't also communicate the expectations of the deliverable on it, or, anything, the things around it, they're still going to have problems getting it done. And so it's a combination of training and communication and making sure everybody's expectations and understanding of what's happening is crystal clear, because if there's any confusion on either side, it's going to be problematic. So I love that you brought that into it too, because it is training and communication and expectations, that really make it all solidly run. And then the not being able to think, to create. And even if you do have the space to think and create, who's going to create it? When are you going to have time to actually create that great new idea you had? You're still not going to be able to expand and scale, because you may have time to think of the idea, but then you don't have time to actually make it happen. So definitely on point there. And one last piece of this, so that you and I can have a little bit of fun here is you're a Star Wars guy. I'm a Harry Potter gal. So let me say, I bet you have it to where when you get to go have fun, you're doing a lot of stuff related to Star Wars. You're doing things with your family, because that is really key. And being able to do stuff like that refreshes you, rejuvenates you, and pumps you back up to be able to step back into it when you get back and not go, oh my God, vacation is over and I have to go back to work. It's a whole different way. Would you agree?
You know what? You cut out right there at the end. I don't know if that was my internet or not. Just the last sentence you said is what I didn't get.
I was saying, I was like, being able to do those things refreshes you and rejuvenates you so that you can step back into the business and be happy about it, not, oh my God, vacation is over. So, you know,
Right.
how much does that play into your world? Because I know you just recently went on vacation. So, did you go have fun with Star Wars stuff or did you do something else?
Well, it's interesting you say that. I just recently went on vacation. The truth is no matter when this interview was, that would be a true statement. Because I've built a business that gives me that opportunity to go on adventures all the time. Life is really about adventures. So, what did we do? We went to Disneyland, and Disneyland is my absolute favorite place to be. Disneyland and the mountains. Those are my two places. Next is the beach, and I love that as well. We're going out to the beach in a couple weeks now. But well, I did go to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge while I was there. Tell you the truth, though, I mean, I absolutely love Star Wars, but my real thing that I geek out on above everything else is Disneyland stuff. I have an obsession with Disneyland, and particularly with Walt Disney. Walt
Mm,
Disney, you see this book. This is a book that I have read at least once a year for the last 10 years. That's why this book is
wow.
so tattered. This book is called How to Be Like Walt, and it's like a personal development book meets a biography. It's a biography and a personal development book, kind of leadership training book at the same time. And when it comes down to it, I just like having fun. Whether it's Disneyland or Star Wars stuff, or it's the Dodgers, which I'm a huge fan of as well, and whether it's going up into the mountains or going, um, anywhere. Like I don't take a long time without doing something that I find amazingly fun. This past weekend I went to Yellowstone, had a great time there. I didn't even mention that. People be like, "Oh, that's a vacation." Well, I don't know. I just went up to Yellowstone. Week before that, we were in Disneyland. Week before that, we were probably somewhere else. And the point is that I just think life is fun, and I like having fun. I like enjoying myself, and I like doing that. And I love my work too. But a big reason why I love my work is I'm a big fan of Stephen Covey's work, who talks about the importance of sharpening the saw. And I always make sure to sharpen the saw because I am not my peak self if I don't take the time to actually sharpen that saw and be at my very best. And I think it's so important. What about you? You were talking about Harry Potter stuff, and I love how your room is covered with that, and it makes it so you're not just experiencing it when you're on vacation or things like that, but you get to have it all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is a lesson learned in the coaching that I've had over the years is creating an environment you can thrive in and enjoy being in that is either beautiful to you or fun, whatever it takes to put you in that good headspace. So that I'm sitting here working and I can literally look up and see Harry Potter stuff here. It's behind me. I mean, it's the whole office. We call it the magical Harry Potter office because almost everything in here is something to do with Harry Potter, and it's my fun. It's what nourishes my inner child
Mm.
and allows me to think like a kid when I want to, and to think about magic. And no, I can't wave a wand and make my business $1 million or your business $1 million. But the having that openness to the magic of life, because life is magical, and you've got to be able to tune into that as a part of your entertainment. And yes, I love to go to, I've never been to the one in Hollywood, but I have been to Harry Potter Studio, or Harry Potter Land as we call it, down at Universal in Orlando.
Right,
And me too. The beach is my zen. It is my zen. I just love
right.
to go there and just soak up all that is over there, the water, the wind, the sun, the heat. People think I'm crazy. I love heat and humidity. It's like, Give it to me.
Mm. Well,
So
I'll tell you this. I have not been out to Universal in Florida. We're doing that for the first time this fall. We've been to Disney World many times. We're going to go this fall and go to Universal and experience all that stuff, mostly for the Harry Potter stuff. But I'm not trying to knock it, but Universal in Hollywood is a much smaller version. It's a very much stripped down version. So I'll put it this way: it's not the same, but there's nothing at Universal in Hollywood, at least in terms of the Harry Potter stuff, that doesn't exist in Florida. And there's a lot of stuff that's in Florida that doesn't exist in Hollywood. So it's not like you need to go and experience both. Where like with like Disneyland and Disney World, there's plenty of things that are in one and not the other, and that's on both sides. And there's a value of going to both. But being someone who has been to Universal in Hollywood many times and then just knows about what's in Florida, I'd say
I'm not missing out.
Florida's
Huh?
fine. Yeah, Florida takes care of
Not
it.
missing out. Well, the thing that Universal Hollywood has is Hollywood Studios, where you
Right.
can potentially go see some of your favorite shows, and so
Right.
that draws me in as far as it's double duty. It's like, yeah, they have a Harry Potter land, but they also have Hollywood Studios. I might be able to get
Right.
tickets to watch a show being taped or something like that, because I'm kind of something like The Voice. I love watching The Voice, and being at if I could someday be in the audience of that and watch one of those episodes live would be just so crazy amazing. And Florida doesn't have that, but
Right.
ultimately it is Harry Potter land, and it's butterbeer, and that's my favorite part.
Nice. Well, there's quite a few. Like if you go out there, not just with Universal stuff, but with the Warner Brothers backlot, there's a couple other backlots as well where they film all sorts of stuff. Conan O'Brien's filmed there. Not Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel's filmed there. Those kind of shows are going on, and you can go and be an audience member. It's pretty fun to do. I did Conan a couple times. I was on Price is Right once. That was fun. And
Ooh.
my friend won the Showcase Showdown.
Oh my
And as he
goodness.
won the Showcase Showdown, they had our whole group run up on stage. It was very funny. It
Oh,
was
that's so cool.
very
I
funny
know somebody
experience.
who actually, well, I know somebody who knows somebody that won something on The Price is Right. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
fun.
goodness. Alrighty, Jake. Well, it's about time to wrap it up. Let's tell everybody where they can find you. If you have something to give them a taste of working with you, those kinds of things. Let's put that out there. Let them know where they can find you and learn more about you.
Yeah, well, fantastic. Thank you for that. Here's what I think. Because you're listening to a podcast right now, it probably means that you like listening to podcasts. So why don't you come over and take a listen to my podcast? It's called the Mountaintop Motivation Podcast. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find it on Spotify, or also if you just go to mtmsuccess.com, Mountaintop Motivation. That's what that stands for. Someone took that. They're not even using it. Mountaintopmotivation.com. Come on. But they're not even using it. But mtmsuccess.com, that's where you can go and find all of our back episodes. And we'd love to have you come and check it out.
Sounds good. Well, Jake, it has been a great pleasure having you on the podcast today. I'm really excited to have you, and thank you for being here. And I want to say thank you to my listeners. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and share this with your friends, because I know they're going to want to hear all this great stuff that we brought up today, including our fun side of life with our Harry Potter and our Disneyland stuff. So thank you for being here, Jake, and thank you everybody for listening. We will see you next week.